Earnings season is back, and on today's episode, I am going to take a look at 3 stocks that are reporting earnings this week and just do more of a refresh of what happened to them on their last earnings. So the episode is going to be broken down pretty simple. We're going to take a look at these 3 stocks, how their price performance has moved throughout the past quarter to see if, hey, does it make sense that these companies have moved this much throughout the quarter based on their last earnings? At the end, I'm also going to take a look at some stocks that I did not mention but are worth looking at for the earnings this week. Like always, if you're new to my channel, if you're a long-term investor, if you like to learn about growth stocks, make sure to hit that subscribe button. To all my returning viewers, thank you so much for the support. It truly means a lot. Like always, if you want to get in contact with me, YouTube comments, Twitter, you can find me on Twitch live streaming, on my Discord channel, which is free to anybody that wants to join, or at josenaharo.com. Like always, everything I say here is just my opinions. I am by no means a professional, so make sure to talk to a financial advisor before doing any financial decisions. Now that we got that out the way, let's get started. All right, let's get started with today's episode. Like always, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up. It helps the small channel out so much. And let me know in the comments right now, what earnings are you guys more excited to see this upcoming week? If you guys choose, if there's a lot of love on one stock, I will gladly do a video on them when their earnings come out. And finally, make sure to check out that Webull link that I have. If you sign up and follow the rules there with that link, we both could get a free stock, and that would help the channel out so much. So make sure to click that Webull link as well. So let's take a look real quick at the calendar here. So the 3 stocks we're going to take a look at is Tuesday, Netflix after close is reporting. Wednesday, Tesla after close is reporting. And Thursday, Intel after close is reporting. There's a lot of other companies that I feel are pretty interesting, and I'll mention them at the end of the episode. But for now, let's start off with Netflix, since they're gonna be tomorrow. So Netflix Tuesday after hours. First, let's take a look at their most recent earnings. So their most recent earnings was on July 16th of 2020. So for now, let's take a look at how price performance has moved for Netflix since the last earnings. So let's take a look at July 16th. So since July 16th, at that price point, Netflix is actually flatlined right now. And that's pretty crazy, right? The market has been very volatile throughout these past few months, but it's pretty much just jumping between ups and lows, that volatility. But that's crazy, right? Only 0.63% compared to July 16th, and now we're October 19th. So it's pretty much flatline compared to last earnings. So what happened last earnings, so we can get a recap? So last earnings, the company reported adding 10.1 million global streaming subscribers. This is insane because Netflix for that quarter only estimated 7.5 million adding. And normally Netflix, when they give their guidance, they actually give guidance that are very hard to beat. So for them doing saying 7.5 and beating by up to 10.1 million, that was a huge gain for Netflix. One of the bad news about it was the company did guide for lower numbers in quarter 3. So in quarter 3, they're only expected to add $2.5 million. And this is compared to their previous guidance, which was at least 5 million. So why that big change? And Netflix mentioned it on their earnings call. They say they kind of just borrowed those subscribers' time. And the thing I mean by that is the subscribers that they had estimated were going to come in quarter 3 due to the pandemic and due to everything else, they actually ended up coming in quarter 2. So it was a huge expansion of subscribers coming in at once, but they don't believe it's just more accelerating those subscribers. So the subscribers that were going to grow next quarter or this upcoming quarter have actually just moved to the previous quarter. So they're saying that this quarter, they're only estimated to grow 2.5 million. To be honest, that number seems very conservative. I wouldn't be surprised if they beat estimation. So to me, for Netflix earnings, the first thing I'm going to take a look at is that net subscription added. Is it going to beat that 2.5 million? To me, I do believe that's a little bit, they're being very conservative there. The second thing I want to take a look at Netflix now that they're reporting earnings, and let me zoom in for you guys, and let me go back here so you guys can see this. The second thing I'm very excited to see about Netflix is their most recent earnings, which was the last quarter. They reported positive free cash flow and positive cash flow from operations. And the world went crazy about this. But Netflix said that the main reason they were positive in both of these, and you can see for the past 3 years, Netflix has, even though they're positive in earnings, they have not been positive in free cash flow or cash flow from operations. So everybody was going crazy about this. But Netflix says that one of the main reasons they were positive here is because a lot of production has halted, so they did not have to pay as much dues as they didn't have to pay as much in how they normally do due to the slowdown in production and casting and all that. So that delay is just going to be pushed on for later. So I do believe this upcoming quarter, if things are back to normal, we're going to go back to a negative free cash flow or cash flow from operations. Now let's take a look at Netflix future growth. For the upcoming years, Netflix is expected to grow 15.0% annually on average for the next 3 to 5 years. Anything growing at these levels on average annually is considered a nice growth stock. So we can see Netflix is still considerable, is still considered a very growth stock indeed. And let's take a look at that financial health. Financial health for Netflix right now, they have about $7.2 billion in cash, and they have about $15.8 billion in debt. Right now, their cash flow, I'm not a huge fan of their balance sheet, if I may be honest. But debt right now is pretty cheap, so it's okay to be leveraged to some extent. The only reason, even though they're positive earnings, they have positive earnings, right? We saw that they have negative cash flow from operations. So that's the main reason I'm not too excited about their balance sheet. If they had positive cash flow from operations, that balance sheet wouldn't be as scary as it is to me. Again, debt is pretty cheap, and I remember most of their senior notes are due in many years from now, and also with very low interest, which is something as an investor one should keep an eye off. All right, so the second company we're going to take a look at is reporting Wednesday after close, and that's going to be Tesla. So let's take a look at Tesla's most recent earnings. Their most recent earnings were on July 22nd. So let's see how stock price has moved since July 22nd. So since closing July 22nd to now, the stock is up 35.2%. Those are pretty great returns to investors in just a matter of a quarter. So congratulations to all the Tesla longs. We can see again, just like any other company, it has been very volatile for Tesla. So last earnings, they announced revenue up. Revenue was down about 5% compared to the same time last year. But remember, last quarter was still kind of being impacted by COVID-19 and the shutdowns. I do believe this quarter will be a little bit better when we take a look at shutdowns, right? There were less shutdowns, more places were back at work. So I do believe we might see better revenue compared to the same time last year. The only thing, I know, right, Tesla is not just an EV company, right? They have all these strong software and everything else. But in this past few quarters, we've seen a lot of new additions in the just plain EV market, not in the self-driving market, right? That's a completely different. But in the EV market, we've seen a huge increase from Volkswagen, and I do believe there's other. Volkswagen just did the ID4. There's other companies that have just released or are upcoming with new EV cars. So I want to see how that's growing. So that's how that's affecting Tesla's guidance, if that's going to affect anything on delivery. So that's one thing I'm really focused on, right? I don't have a position in Tesla, and I don't believe that's a bull or bear case. Me as an investor, I just like to see how the overall market is doing, and something as new competition coming in to the EV market, something I'm definitely interested to see. All right, so let's take a look at future growth for Tesla. So Tesla in the upcoming years is expected to grow 28.1%. Now this is a super growth stock. We can see here they're also expected to be profitable in the upcoming years. I know they were profitable for the past 4 or 5 quarters, but there hasn't been a full fiscal year for Tesla that they've been profitable. I think the first 2 quarters that they were profitable were for the previous fiscal quarter, and now these the other 2 have been for this fiscal quarter. So there hasn't been a full fiscal year in Tesla's fiscal year where they have been profitable. So that's something to see. I do expect investors do expect that this year will be the year that they finally end up profitable for a full fiscal year. Now let's take a look at financial health. Financial health for Tesla, I do believe, is pretty strong. They have about $8.6 billion in cash and $12.7 billion in debt. It's not horrible, especially for a company that's about to be profitable, hopefully this year. Having some form of leverage is not that bad, very similar to how we saw with Netflix. And in this most recent balance sheet that they should come up with this quarter, we'll have an update on this. I know they did raise some cash in this previous quarter, so we're going to see a differential between that cash and debt for this earnings, and that's something I also want to keep an eye on. The third company we're going to take a look at is reporting Thursday after close. This is going to be Intel. So Intel Corporation, ticker INTC, and for my podcast listeners, my apology. Tesla, if you guys don't know, I would hope you guys know, is TSLA, and then Netflix is NFLX. Sorry about that. So those are very common. Most investors probably know those tickers' name. So Intel Corporation reported earnings on July 23rd of 2020. So that's, I can see here when that happened. Compared to then, Intel is still down 9.6%, close to 10% compared to its last earnings. And what happened last earnings, for those that don't remember, the biggest thing that happened is Intel says they are expecting to delay their 7 nanometer chips. The other thing is their 10 nanometer chips were also haven't come out yet, which were delayed from their original timeline. So investors were probably just a little angry with how Intel is running things. But they did see huge growth in the data center group, and that's obviously due to this working from home environment. They also saw huge growth in the PC centric. So those are two markets I'm very interested to see, two markets I'm very bullish on, and it kind of gives us insight of where the market is going from here. I did look at Micron Technology about 2 weeks ago, and it does seem like we're still going to see strength in the data center group and in the PC centric based on their memory. So the next thing is, this is actually an article from today. Intel is expected to sell its NAND memory chip to rival SK Hynix for about $10 billion. This is right now something that I do believe we might get a little more news about tomorrow on their earnings. Wait, no, their earnings is on Thursday. So maybe we might hear some more news in the upcoming days before earnings. But hey, so that's just something else to take a look at. For me, Intel, what I really want to see is pretty much that growth in data center groups. It's a market I'm very bullish on. And by seeing growth in data center groups, I still believe it kind of gives me an insight of how the clouding market is doing right now. Very similar to PC centric. It kind of gives me a way of how the gaming demand is also doing. So I definitely like to listen to those earnings reports. Now let's take a look at some other earnings that are upcoming this week, but I'm not sure if I might do a video on. The first three I mentioned, Netflix, Tesla, and Intel, those are going to be guaranteed videos today. But if you guys want me to do videos on any other, feel free to let me know in the comments. Monday, we have Logitech. I am very bullish in the gaming industry. But I'm not too bullish in the hardware part of it. But I know a lot of people are. So Logitech was today after close. IBM is one I'm very interested to read. I just saw their earnings. It looked like they saw another quarter of revenue decline, which is pretty sad. But they are doing a spin-off, right? They're kind of going into just a clouding company. That to me is pretty funny, right? They bought Red Hat, and now they're kind of going to transform into a Red Hat themselves. So it's more like Red Hat bought IBM instead of IBM buying Red Hat. So that's today. On Tuesday, some cool ones that people might like are Snapchat is reporting Tuesday after hours, and Texas Instrument is also doing Tuesday. Texas Instrument can kind of give us a way of how semi-industry is also moving. On Wednesday, we have Chipotle, which I think is one that a lot of investors follow. Seeing how the overall restaurant business is doing right now, still with some places shut down due to COVID-19. Silenex is one I'm also interested to listen to because of that AMD purchase. I believe that's the one they're trying to buy, so we might get some news on it there. On Thursday, before open, we have a lot of airlines. We have American Airlines, we have Southwest reporting. We also have Coca-Cola. And after hours, I don't see anything that really interests me except Limelight. Limelight Networks, that CDN platform. A lot of people are very bullish on it, so it might be one. If it gets enough likes or enough comments, I might do one on. And Friday seems pretty pretty quiet like most Fridays do, except if you're interested in American Express. So like always, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Make sure to hit the thumbs up. Make sure to post in the comments. It helps the small channel out so much. And I truly, truly appreciate it. So take care, guys. Have a good night and see you next time.